Hi guys, thanks for participating in my thesis research. We're going to get started with our first educational session on self-care. I thought this quote on the first slide was super important and really pertained to teachers, as I'm sure you'll see as we go through these educational sessions. It says you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first. As teachers, a lot of times we take care of our students first and often put ourselves on the back burner. And again, if you aren't able to take care of yourself, sometimes it's hard to take care of other people and give them what they need. And so hopefully we're able to do that a little bit better through our self-care education session. So just a little bit of background on what we know about secondary teachers and what the research says. Research has found that stress in secondary teachers is considered to be moderately high. A lot of this has to do with the fact that they take on personal responsibility for their students and their students' success, both in and outside of the classroom. And then they also take on personal burden. So if you have a student who doesn't succeed or a student who's maybe struggling outside the classroom with personal or friends or anything like that, when they confide in you, you yourself take on that burden. And I learned a lot about secondary stress trauma victims and how teachers are often victims of that without realizing it, because teachers are often the ones who are helping others through a traumatic situation and themselves take on the emotional and the stress of that traumatic situation, and often leads to additional negative effects for the teacher. And so I learned a lot about that in my research. There's a lot of research out there like that because you do care so much for your students, but it does take a toll on you personally. And then the other reason why teachers are often stressed is because they do take on the personal responsibility for students, and they teach well beyond the curriculum. You're not teaching just your math curriculum or just your social studies or English curriculum. You're often helping students navigate personal challenges outside of the classroom as well as inside the classroom while teaching them content. And so you're juggling a lot of things all at once. But the good news is that it has been found that stress reduction techniques can actually reduce the prevalence of burnout and also delay it. So a lot of times teachers feel burnout during a certain time of the year. And with COVID, I'm sure you're definitely all feeling it a little bit sooner because you're, again, dealing with more unforeseen circumstances. But with stress reduction techniques, we're able to maybe delay that. And so maybe instead of feeling it in November, before you get the break, maybe you're able to not feel burned out until April or May. And when you can get to May, it's just water under the bridge to get done through the school year. So we've all been there. There's no shame in that, but just knowing that you do have to take care of yourself, maybe we can delay some of those feelings as well. So what is self-care? It's really just a big balancing act, and every day can be different. Every moment of the day can be different. It's just being aware of what it is you need for your happiness and your health. And if you put that first, then you're better equipped to take care of others. So it can be unbalanced, and in teachers, it's often unbalanced in the way that you may be meeting the needs socially because you're interacting with kids every day, but emotionally your needs may be a little bit drop or a little bit unbalanced because you're taking on that emotional burden of others. That emotional burden of others can also lead to sleep deprivation, which can then unbalance your physical self-care. And so it's just really noticing and being aware of what it is you need to know, today I need to take self-care for me in this category. And we'll talk about those categories in a second. One of the areas that we talk about being over and understimulated, just an example, is if you have a troubled student. So I'll give you guys a personal story of mine. When I was teaching, I had a student who was evicted and didn't show up to school for a week. And I had kind of inquired and found out that this is what was going on with this student. And often I found myself laying awake in bed at night worried about the student. Where was the student sleeping? Where was the student getting their meals from? When am I going to see this student again? And I took on that emotionally my needs were being overstimulated, and it was causing my physical self-care to be understimulated. I wasn't meeting my needs for sleep, which then led to a vicious cycle of taking care of others and threw me a little bit out of balance. So the research also supports that, and that what we're going to talk about in the next slide. And so just recognizing that in yourself and knowing that, hey, I really need to go to sleep. What can I do to help myself get some sleep so I can take care of these kids? Being aware, this all the quote talks about is just being aware of what it is you need. And I think sometimes that's the hardest challenge for us as teachers. So what are the 4 different types of self-care? There's physical, emotional, social, and spiritual. And I kind of talked about 3 of these already, but they're listed on the slide as well as different ways. A lot of times physical, people think of working out and going and sweating and all that, and it doesn't have to be that extreme. Something that I found has worked for me through COVID is just taking 10 minutes in the morning to be present in the moment and for the day. I did it through yoga. That was helpful for me. And then also kind of met my spiritual needs with like just being mindful in the moment. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week. But there's other ways of doing it. Taking a moment and stretching. Our ergonomics are so bad. Sitting in a desk all day, standing on your feet all day, just taking moments and listening to what your body needs. It doesn't have to be a workout, a stressful workout. And 10 minutes is sometimes enough. Emotionally, we talked about that with teaching and how you take on a lot of other people's emotions. And so a lot of times teachers are overstimulated emotionally. Maybe you just need a moment to reset. And that can be done through forgiving yourself, being kind to yourself, saying, I'm having a bad day and it's okay. And it's okay to have self-care in that way too. Social, we talked about how teachers socially are stimulated all the time because you interact with people. But because of the age that you guys teach and being a secondary teacher, you may need a more adult conversation, and that is okay. And so just finding that either in a colleague or maybe in a partner or in a friend outside of school, away from school, and knowing that this is what I need and I need to take time for me. And then spiritually, again, doesn't have to be church. It's a lot of times the first thing that comes to mind, but just taking time for yourself to reset because socially you may be overstimulated. Taking that spiritual moment of being alone and not needing to be needed. That's okay. Meditation and yoga, we're going to focus more on these next week because there's a lot of research to suggest that these are super beneficial. Connection with others, connections with the earth, nature, just getting outside. You guys are in a school building the majority of the day, and so sometimes it's just nice to hear the birds chirp or feel the wind in your face, and that can connect you maybe a little bit more spiritually. Journaling and reflection, this is another piece that we're going to focus a lot on later on. And then just finding your own space, your sacred space, wherever that is, that space where you feel it's okay to be you. It's okay to cry if you need to cry. It's okay to laugh if you need to laugh. Just finding that space for yourself. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure all these areas are balanced. And how do we do that? And so that's kind of where your homework comes in. That's unique to every person. Like I've given you a couple tidbits of how it's helped me through my research and how I've been able to apply my research to my own personal life. Even though I'm no longer teaching, I look back at my teaching life and see like, hey, I could have done this better. And being a graduate student, I found ways that have been able to help me as well. So your homework this week is just to practice 10 minutes of self-care as often as you can. If you get 10 minutes Monday, Wednesday, great. If you get 10 minutes once this week, great. Just starting to find time and carving out time for you. And 10 minutes, I know may seem daunting and a lot right now, but you'd be surprised how quickly 10 minutes can have benefits. And so I just kind of want you to try and see what that does for you. What does that look like? Well, for every person, it's different. So ways to implement in your school day, taking no more time out of your day than you already don't have, is just kind of maybe you get to school and instead of opening your door right away, you take moments for yourself. You take a moment just to be quiet. Or maybe after school, your kids leave and before you open your door for tutoring, you say, I just need 5 minutes, and you close the door and you turn your lights out and you just take 5 minutes for you. And that's okay because that may make you a better teacher throughout the day. It may give you more patience for that one kid that's on that last cusp of being over it. Another way to do it is during a conference period or right before lunch. Maybe right after school, you take 10 minutes and you go walk the halls. You just walk up and down the hall. I know kind of the structure of some of your schools, they're kind of long, and so you can get a good walk in 10 minutes. If you can get outside, even better, because then you're getting that spiritual and that physical need. And if you can grab a friend or a partner and someone in the school building that's also on your schedule, you can also get maybe an adult conversation in there. Maybe you can get 3 areas stimulated instead of just one, but you can always just start with one. Another thing is your sleep. Your sleep is super important in recovery and brain processing. Science will back all of that up. So maybe just putting your phone down 10 minutes before bed, not letting your email ding, and reading a book or doing something that you enjoy those 10 minutes before bed. Packing a healthy snack or lunch, simple as that, and just eating better and eating healthier can help your physical well-being, and just looking forward to that. I took time to do something for me today, and that may be enough. This one is super hard, and I know this one's super hard. Leaving work at your contract time. So hard. But when you're able to set an alarm and you're able to stick to it, and you're able to leave the school building and get out and change your environment, even if it's just one day a week, it can have so many benefits. But I do know how hard that is, and we'll kind of talk about that a little later on in some of our educational sessions with the way that the school constructs are built. But I challenge you, if you want to challenge, that's the one I challenge you to do, is leave at the end of contract and try not to take work home with you. It's so difficult, but it can be very, very rewarding. And then make plans to meet or call an adult friend. Sometimes you need that adult stimulation and not just you're caring for someone. Sometimes you need someone to vent to. You need someone to not talk about school with, whatever that may be. But take time for you. It can be on your drive home, as long as it's hands-free and you're practicing safe driving. Sometimes that commute home can be very therapeutic, and having a conversation with an adult about whatever it is you need to have a conversation about. And then of course, be creative, make your own homework ideas based on your own needs. You know your life better than anyone else, and so make it creatively your own. I look forward to hearing what was successful for you guys. I also look forward to hearing what was challenging for you. I'll send out a survey at the beginning of the next session, so that way we can kind of see where we're at, and maybe we can bounce ideas off each other. And so I hope that you found this educational session beneficial to your own learning, and that you're able to find just 10 minutes for yourself, even if it's just once this week. Hopefully we can start there and grow and see what the benefits are. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. But here are some of the references that I talked about in my slides, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week.